in the world of sports, there are always players that play in the wrong era, whether that's in the era that was before them or after them. So in this video today, I want to talk about some NFL and maybe even some college football players that play in the wrong era. And the first player we're going to talk about in this video is Doug Flutie. Flutie was a quarterback in college in the 80s and a quarterback in the CFL, USFL, and NFL during the 80s and 90s. Flutie wasn't your prototypical quarterback as he was 5'10 and 180 pounds. Now in today's age of football, this wouldn't be much of a problem for Flutie, as we have Kyler Murray who's 5'10, we have Bryce Young who's undersized in both height and weight, and I don't want to leave out the great Drew Brees. Now I don't want to sit and pretend that the height of a quarterback doesn't matter in today's age of football, as we did have questions about Bryce Young and his height, but Bryce still went number 1 and Kyler Murray went number 1, so being a short quarterback is more accepted in today's age. But of course the problem for Flutie was that he didn't play in today's age of football. He played in the 80s and the 90s, and this is a big reason why Flutie was drafted in round 11 of the 1985 NFL draft. Despite being drafted, Flutie still opted to play for the USFL, where they were looking for a star to rejuvenate their league. Flutie would play just 1 year in the USFL, and then he would get traded from the Los Angeles Rams to the Chicago Bears, so he would jump back into the NFL, where he would play 2 years with Chicago. After those 2 seasons in Chicago, Flutie would get traded to New England, where he would become a solid backup. After spending just 3 years in New England, he would opt for the CFL over the NFL. This would be a smart move for Flutie, as the CFL fit his play style of being a freewheeling, scrambling passer. Now, Flutie's ability to scramble and create extra time in the pocket and outside of the pocket is another reason why I say he was ahead of his time. Flutie would spend 7 seasons in the CFL, where he would have a couple of 6,000 to 5,000 passing yard seasons. Flutie then would make his way back to the NFL, as he would get picked up by the Bills, where he played for them for 3 seasons. Flutie would start about 2.5 seasons for the Bills, where he was playing really good football. Only problem is, it didn't seem like the Bills really wanted him to start. In 1999, Flutie would lead the Bills to a 10-5 record and to a wildcard game. But right before the wildcard game started, the Bills decided to bench Flutie for Rob Johnson, who hasn't started in a year. The Bills would actually end up losing this game to the Titans on a Music City Miracle play, and Doug Flutie would only spend 1 more year with the Bills. Flutie would then go on to play for the Chargers and then the Patriots for 1 more season, and he would eventually retire. Now in this era, would Flutie be a really good starting quarterback? Probably not, as he was very turnover prone, but would he have gotten a fair shot and been a really good backup here and there? Yes. Now the next person I want to talk about is Tavon Austin. Now I know what you're thinking, Tavon Austin did kind of play in this era, but at the same time, in my eyes, he didn't. And I say that because when he was drafted, a lot of offenses in the NFL were still kind of bland for his play style, and now when you look at offenses in the NFL, they're more creative. Austin was drafted in 2013 in the first round with the 9th overall pick by the St. Louis Rams. The only problem is the Rams head coach at the time was Jeff Fisher and his old type of style of playbook. And if you got to watch Tavon Austin in high school or college, then you would know he kind of didn't fit that playbook. Now, if Tavon was drafted in today's NFL, let's say by the Bills, the Chiefs, the Rams, or the 49ers, or even more teams, then he would be used a lot differently. But due to him being drafted by the Rams in 2013, it kind of hurt his career. Austin spent 5 years with the Rams, both in St. Louis and LA, where he didn't have the best of seasons. Tavon's best year with the Rams came in his 3rd season, as he had over 400 yards receiving and rushing in that season. And the Rams for the first couple seasons did utilize him in the run and pass game, but his 3rd season was where they had a really great balance, as he had over 50 receptions and over 50 rushing attempts. After that season, he would spend just 2 more years with the Rams. Then after that, he would move on to Dallas. After spending just 2 seasons in Dallas, he would move on to Green Bay and then on to Jacksonville. But those 3 teams never really cared to utilize Tavon how he could be utilized. 1, because he was getting older and his speed was diminishing, and because he was mostly just signed to do special teams work. Now, I don't want to sit here and act like if Tavon was utilized right, he would be just this great Hall of Famer, as he had bad hands and was a poor route runner. But I do think if he was drafted now, he would be utilized a lot more in the run game and passing game, like he was in his first couple seasons with the Rams compared to his last couple seasons with the Rams. Tavon did spend 9 years in the NFL, so it wasn't like his career was a complete failure. He just really didn't live up to the hype compared to his college career.
The whole time it seemed like 2 Vontaze Burfict, and yes.
Oh my goodness.
Now we're talking about Vontaze Burfict, who definitely should have played more in the 90s, 80s, or 2000s. But Burfict played in the 2010s, where the league started cracking down more on helmet-to-helmet hits and hard hits. And that just wasn't Burfict's play style, as he was a hard-hitting, physical linebacker. But of course, this would have fit perfectly back in the day, as we all know that compilation on YouTube of hard hits, and Burfict's play style would have fit perfectly for one of those compilations. And Burfict learned this hard-hitting, ruthless style of play from his younger days. By the time he got to the NFL though, that style of play was played out. And despite Burfict being a good linebacker during his time, that overshadowed his career. Due to some of the hits and plays he made on the field, he was labeled as a dirty player. See, in 2012, Burfict went undrafted but was picked up by the Bengals as an undrafted free agent. Burfict would spend 7 seasons with the Bengals, putting up solid stats, including having 3 100 tackle seasons. Now the problem is, when he was in Cincinnati, he would pick up lots of fines and suspensions. But the worst play for Burfict's career came in the AFC wildcard game against the Steelers. With the Bengals up with just under 30 seconds to go, Big Ben was looking for Antonio Brown over the middle. And as Antonio Brown was going for the catch, Burfict came across the middle and smacked him. Since Antonio Brown was viewed as a defenseless receiver in this moment, Burfict was flagged, and after that, Pac-Man Jones was flagged, and the Steelers went on to kick a field goal for the win. After Burfict's time in Cincinnati was over, he went on to the Raiders for 1 season, and he hasn't played in the NFL since. In his time in the NFL, Burfict was suspended for over 22 games, and he was fined more than 11 times. Now I think it's safe to say, if Burfict got to play 10 years earlier, his style of play would be accepted. Before Shannon Sharpe was everybody's favorite unk on TV or YouTube, he was a pretty great football player. To start his NFL career, Shannon Sharpe was a pretty underrated player. He was drafted in the 7th round with the 192nd pick, coming out of Savannah State. Now at Savannah State, he played more of a receiver, and he had 3,700 yards and 40 touchdowns in his career. Of course, with Shannon Sharpe being a 7th round pick, he had to fight for his position, in which he won, but he was still a wide receiver. After 2 underwhelming years as a wide receiver, the Broncos would decide to move Sharpe to tight end. This was a blessing for Sharpe, as he was able to use his physical abilities to his advantage. Since Sharpe was 6'2", 230, he was too big for defensive backs, but he was also too fast for linebackers. He would also use his speed to his advantage when it came to blocking as well. And Sharpe would go on to be a beast at tight end on the Broncos. In his first stint, he would have 3 1,000-yard seasons and 3 seasons with over 80 receptions. Most importantly, Sharpe will help the Broncos win back-to-back Super Bowls. After spending a decade in Denver, Sharpe would sign a 2-year deal with the Baltimore Ravens. In one of his 2 years, he would help the Ravens win a Super Bowl on what is regarded as one of the best defensive teams of all time. Sharpe would then move on back to Denver, where he would spend 2 more seasons and then end up retiring with over 10,000 receiving yards and 62 touchdowns. Sharpe's speed and his ability to catch the ball would have went great in this era. I believe if Sharpe played football in 2024, his numbers will look similar to Travis Kelce's. Kelce has put up over 1,000 yards each year since 2016 outside of last season, and he also had over 80 receptions each year since 2016. Ultimately though, I believe Sharpe would have been a Hall of Famer no matter what era he played football in. An NFL player you're probably not familiar with is Sam Huff. Huff played in the NFL from 56 to 69, where he won a championship, made the All-Pro team 6 times, was named to the Pro Bowl 5 times, and was named as one of the top 100 greatest NFL players back in 2010. But most importantly, Huff was a pioneer to the middle linebacker position. Huff was a really good run stopper as he battled great running backs like Jim Brown. He also wasn't a one-dimensional middle linebacker as he had 30 interceptions in his career. To add on to all of that, in 58 and 59, he would finish 3rd and 4th in MVP voting. Now his run stopping abilities, I'm pretty sure would translate. Now would he be as good in pass coverage is debatable, but I'm pretty sure he'd be just fine. I also say he played in the wrong era because the type of leverage he had back then. See, Huff was the face of the New York Giants back in the 60s, helping them win a championship his rookie year. And Huff seemed like a New York lifer as he got traded to Washington, and Huff said he would never forgive Ali Sherman for trading him to Washington. Now I believe in today's age, with how good Huff was as a middle linebacker, he probably wouldn't have been traded because he would have had more leverage as a player. In the NFL today, most teams want to keep that middle linebacker unless you're the Bears, then you trade Roquan Smith to the Ravens. Huff was also the first NFL superstar in New York City. Matter of fact, he was so popular in New York City around the time, he was actually supposed to be the first NFL player on Time magazine. As good as that sounded, Huff did not take that offer because they wouldn't pay him. I truly believe Huff could have played in this era with his run stopping ability and his pass coverage ability. With how good he was as a middle linebacker and he played in New York City, he would have had major endorsements in today's era. Those are some players I believe that played in the wrong era of football. Some players I believe played too early, and some players I believe played too late. And I want you guys to comment down below and tell me what other players you think play in the wrong air. But that's all for this video, and until next time, I'm out. Peace.